needs to be, because we will be connecting and getting this going. Good. It looks like it's going, and the connection is excellent. That's what I like to hear on a Friday. Good to see so many active comments in the chat. That is always much appreciated. Really appreciate the energy, folks. Finishing the week strong in the Flux Explorers program. I finished so strong that I sent our two guest invited speakers the wrong link because Riverside has many different studios, and I'm sure they'll be joining us very soon. So I do apologize for that technical inconvenience. I should be joined by two wonderful, amazing speakers that will be with us very soon. But please bear with me on that. Great to be here, as I said, getting started. We're here for another Friday. Amazing to see the enthusiasm that's going into this cohort of incredible explorers that are out there, learning about technologies that are new, fearlessly sharing their knowledge in public, not being afraid of being beginners with this. It's not a big deal. Really like the content that's coming out as well too. It's great to see that, no two posts are the same. We've got folks also that have made videos. That's much appreciated. It's not for everybody necessarily, but it's cool to see people taking chances in their own ways, trying different things, putting themselves out there with the knowledge that they're acquiring in this program. So I just want to thank all of you for that. We are in week 3. We have, quite a few weeks still ahead of us in terms of the content to be consumed. I can tell you that next week there will be another episode dropping on Monday for the Flux series. So you'll be hearing from end users in the Flux world from Orange, the vice president of software engineering from Orange. His name is Philippe. He's a wonderful person. And also you'll be hearing from Arnab, who's also a wonderful person, and he works at a bank called Nomura. And so we'll be hearing from them about their experience as end users with Flux, in large scale companies, where compliance, where these things are very rigorous, can be very intense and demanding, and about how Flux adapts and adjusts to that. We're joined by our first guest speaker, Ebenezer, but I'll get to you in a second, so just hold on tight. Before we just got to get through the intro first. And then we'll be joined by my near and dear friend, Scott Rigby, and he'll be with us very soon. Cool. Just gonna mute everybody's mics. And yeah, so like I said, as usual in these live streams, please, yeah, absolutely, Chris, that is correct. All right, so I'm just gonna drop the names as well. So these are the two. Hello, Scott. Hello, Scott. All right, Scott, just bear with us. I will mute you very quickly, but those are some cool headphones too. Good, yeah. So last time I saw Scott, we were in Guatemala together. That's the beauty of this community. You get to see people all over the world. It's really, really cool. And today we have someone in the US, we have someone in Spain, we have someone in Kenya. All right, so we have 3 different continents covered. That's pretty cool. That makes my Fridays happy. So Chris in our chat was asking about Philippe, the guest from CubeFM. Philippe is a wonderful person, very responsive, really likes engaging community initiatives. I will put his name here because you will definitely be seeing it when the next episode drops. His name is Philippe Ensarget, and he, like I said, he's the VP of software engineering at Orange. No big deal, right? It's kind of cool. My job title doesn't sound that cool. I'm a content creator at LearnCube, but I enjoy what I do, and I get to meet people like Philippe. And then our other guest for that podcast episode is Arnab Chatterjee, and I'll be dropping his name here too. He's a senior vice president at Nomura, doing all sorts of cool stuff with cloud native AI. So like I said, we got those 2 guests. Thanks to the folks out there who wrote their posts about episode 2, where we interviewed Michael Bridgen and Stefan Prodan. Stefan's, sort of the face of the maintainers of Flux. He's very outward, giving, forward-facing, giving lots of talks, being very actively involved in the program. We'll hear a lot more about that from Scott, who has a lot of experience being a maintainer of open source projects. So if you have questions about what it's like to be a maintainer of open source projects, an open source project, what are the things that are necessary, the kind of workload that's involved, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's something you want to do in the future, things like that. This is your chance to ask all those things. That being said, I think I've spoken enough already. So I actually would, now that I've mentioned Scott, if I will turn on your microphone so you can introduce yourself so folks can get to know more about who you are and what you do. Go for it, Scott.
Oh, great. Hi, I didn't know my microphone was off. Hi, Bart. Nice to meet you, Ebenezer. And yeah, I know Philippe. Philippe is great. And let's see.
Who are you?
I
and What do
guess
you do? Yeah.
I'll go ahead and start with my background and kind of like what brought me to Flux, if that sounds good.
Yeah.
I Well, gosh, my background for a long time, I've been working in open source software from an artist background. So like I never got a CS degree. I want to mention that to people because a lot of the folks in this community do have that and do have, let's say, a more traditional computer science background. I do not. I have a philosophy background and an art
As do
background.
I.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's right. I know this, and you're such a like a interesting musician too. And yeah, like I worked as a part of an art collective that I helped to start and ran an art space for 13 years, and we did museum shows and gallery shows and all around and worked with people, all different artist groups all around the world for many years. And anyway, I got into open source software as a hobby. And I got into open source as a career when my daughter was born, 19, when I found out I was going to become a dad 19 years ago. So, yeah, because I have a 18-year-old daughter, uh, and yeah, so basically I started getting into it, and I immediately was into open source because I was part of the free culture and open source culture movements, the emergence of copyleft and things like that. Um, and so that's really what got me into, that was like the beginning. And then I was kind of part of the CMS boom, like the kind of WordPress and Drupal explosion. Was a Drupal core mentor for a long time, was part of that community for a long time. Um, Still maintain some of the modules there, or I guess by name at least. And at some point moved into, yeah, into the Kubernetes world, around 2015. Yeah, I mean, like really near the beginning, but 2016, I started working with Helm very heavily. And I just dove right in because I wanted to understand what Kubernetes was all about. You know, how does Kubernetes handle, I was thinking like an application architect, how does it handle dependency management? How does Kubernetes handle package management? And Helm was the answer to package management question at that time. And so I just was like, well, my background at that point was all application architecture. I was tech lead at NBC Universal at the time for TV networks. And I was like, well, I want to learn. I was like trying to get in all the open source software, right? Like how can we leverage all this stuff? And I'm like, well, how do you run it on Kubernetes? Let's look at the Helm charts, right? And that's how a lot of people learned how you run applications in Kubernetes. And a year later, I was co-maintaining the what used to be the central charts repository for Helm, and just sort of got more and more involved in there. So yeah, I've been doing that since, yeah, for the last 9 years. I then, I guess we're talking about Flux, right? So I have been, I was really interested in automation and the different patterns around CI and CD, which we used to call CI/CD, and was very unimpressed by the security holes that most CI/CD application, you know, that like say you give the keys to your system to these external or CI/CD systems at that time. And I had heard about this thing called GitOps, and it was actually at that time, it was, yeah, it was the Weaveworks folks who were collaborating with the Intuit folks at that time because there was the idea of Argo and Flux merging. Yeah, and if I believe the Weaveworks folks at that time, including Michael Bridgen and Stefan and others, wrote the GitOps engine that that Argo still uses. And it turns out that Flux 2 was what they hoped to do with the new re-architecture of merging. And since the merger never happened, Flux 2 was born. They said, well, we're just going to release Flux 2. And I was extremely impressed by the architecture of Flux 2, extremely componentized, very lightweight, built on core Kubernetes controller runtime. Yeah, so I was just talking with Stefan a lot at that time and trying to get my head around it and thinking, how can I contribute? You know, I wasn't thinking about helping to maintain or anything like that. And then Alexis said, well, how would you like to work on upstream Helm and Flux and Kubernetes and just do that as a career? And I said, great. So that's why I worked at Weaveworks. And I started working on the Flux project. And then I sort of made a different turn because I had done developer experience for a long time. And I don't know, I guess I'm personable. I have no idea why. So, for whatever reason, there was kind of a big hole outside of the tech side of it, which was there were no real shared standards for what even a definition of GitOps were at that time. And so Alexis was like, can you please spearhead this? There was this really awesome guy named Bryce who had basically started like writing down a lot of this stuff. Weaveworks had a definition out for quite a while. GitLab had a definition out, like CloudBees had a definition. I mean, everybody seemed to have a different definition of GitOps. And so I was basically charged or asked to get the GitOps working group at that time going, which is now the Open GitOps project, and to have try to get a shared standard. And I guess a few years later, but many months later, just on that project, 6 months, in fact, with like 60 people from all these different organizations, cloud providers, companies, finally came together and decided on an actual definition and a glossary, and that's what everyone uses now. So I ended up not really doing a lot of work on the Helm controller, which was the first idea. I was going to be taking some load off of HIDA for that. I ended up not really doing that because of that. And so I am still a Flux community maintainer for that reason. I'm also in the Flux security team. I'm happy to acquiesce that role to someone else at some point, but I'm there to be helpful with certain kinds of things. Like, for example, there were some cross security issues between Helm and Flux, and we had connected the two teams, and yeah, there's a really good collaboration between the different projects. And as you know, and I'm a CNCF ambassador as well, or a cloud native ambassador as well. And one of my big interests is in trying to collaborate with lots of other project maintainers and see what kinds of better interoperability we can have between the different projects, whether that's external standards that we all adhere to, or whether that's direct integrations, or just like keeping each other abreast of like what we're thinking and what we're working on, and maybe working on integrations. That's the kind of stuff that I like to do. So yeah, that's kind of like maybe a bit of a early start, then journey into Kubernetes and into Helm, and how I got into Flux.
Great. Thank you very much, Scott. Now, a couple of things I want to know, like you talked about, being a maintainer, and it's something we've talked about at a very high level, contributors and maintainers. So for people to understand, how does someone become a contributor? How does someone become a maintainer? There are obviously different kinds of maintainers, but for people to understand out there, what are the kinds of contributions that people can make? And then if someone wants to become a maintainer, what should they expect? What's the day-to-day, what's the day in the life of a maintainer, whether it's something you're doing in your free time, or like you said, that it's, it's part of your job. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So it's, well, I think it depends on the maturity level of the project. But there's often two levels of maintainers within an open source project. And when they get started, there usually aren't. Everybody is just doing everything. Maybe some people specialize on one thing or another, or a few things, and maybe someone else just sort of like focuses on one thing, or a couple different pieces, but but largely there aren't very set roles. But at some point in the maturity of a project, there's usually the role of people who are at a governance level at a like an organization governance level for the project, at a project level governance, where they're responsible for the vision and the direction of the project and the long-term health of the project. Ensuring that the project has good contributor guidelines is one of them. These tie together, but that there's a good contributor ladder, so they're just so enablement is that piece of it, right? Enabling new contributors, and also making sure that there's well-written governance for the project, so that it's clear who the deciders are for which types of decisions, and then how those are decided. That all should be transparent, because otherwise projects tend to fall apart at some point when they're under human stress. stress testing, you know? Um, and something will invariably, not always, but often come up where it's like, oh gosh, we could have anticipated that maybe if we had looked through the history of open source projects and, you know, but that's, and then also a stopgap for things like code of conduct violations. You know, at a certain point, if you're a project that's part of a larger foundation, or like, for example, whether it's the Apache Foundation, or, you know, like Linux Foundation directly, or CNCF under the Linux Foundation, or whatever, right? Like they have their own code of conduct policy, but generally the project can handle a lot of things up to a specific point. And if that point relates to the maintainers themselves, or that like last level of uh, yeah, anyway, of escalation, then it can be escalated to the foundation. But otherwise, the project takes care of it. So anyway, that's that level. And there's like different things that, you know, that level takes care of. And then there are maintainers who are not also responsible for the organization itself, but responsible for day-to-day or week-to-week or whatever, month-to-month, depending on your pace, operations of, you know, pull request, like contribution, reviewing the contributions of other people who, you know, we have a contributor ladder now. We've got clear definition of how people can actually contribute, whether that's code, documentation, other types of things, right? And you know, there are other non-code and non-documentation ways to contribute too. We can talk about if there's a time on this or some other talk, but basically like reviewing those and making sure that they're in line with the project, and contributing code themselves. So maintainers often will do a combination of those. Issue triage, you know, actually like listening to and responding to the problems that users have with the software, with the open source software, and, you know, trying to basically support, you know, some combination of support, identifying when something is actually a bug, or identifying whether, you know, an issue that someone's having could be a new feature, and really just shepherding that process for the end users, the contributors, and there's often overlap, but not always, right? And then often collaborating with other maintainers to help build features into the project or work on bugs, and even work on security issues if they're on the security team. Yeah, and otherwise just like doing things that are part of the normal cycle of being a maintainer, like trading off, like rotating other duties, like leading the meetings, because, you know, if you're an open source project and it's transparent, you're going to have regular meetings, right, where someone can pop into. Someone's got to lead those. Someone's got to take notes for them. Someone's got to make sure that things that are brought up at those meetings have like a proper place, you know, like, oh, is there an issue for that? Is there a to-do for that we need to follow up on? Does something need to make it to the mailing list? Did something that made it onto the mailing list need to be brought up at the meeting, you know, et cetera, things like that. So there's just a bunch of pieces that are required from a maintainer for running a project. Now that said, contributors can do a lot of those things. And often the path from being a contributor to becoming a maintainer starts in that way, where people start taking on these duties, not necessarily, you know, like, I'm necessarily going to become a maintainer of this project, but because they're really genuinely interested in it and become genuinely invested in it. And at some point, often maintainers say, hey, would you like to help maintain a piece of this project? Or, you know, something like that. And that's how that gets started often.
Very good. So for people that are out there, let's say like if someone's going to take, you know, 30 minutes, like I can share my screen here real quick. If we take the example of Flux, we go to the Flux website and we see contributing to Flux. We see some different things here. But for someone who's a total beginner, I'm just being completely honest. If you're a total beginner and you start seeing customized controller images, all this sort of stuff, a lot of this stuff might sound quite strange, right? We see it's an Apache 2 license. Maybe I don't know what that is. There are a lot of things in there that might be assumptions. What I'm saying here is that so that folks have the best experience possible, whether it's for Flux or any other open source project out there, in the first, 15 minutes when they're approaching, how should someone spend the first 15 minutes? Should they be looking at a GitHub repo? Should they read the code of conduct? Should they look at things about governance? What should the very, very first step be?
Well, you mean if you say you stumble upon Flux for the first time and you haven't really, you know nothing
Or
about it?
if you're someone that's in this program and you're curious about contributing, where should
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely look at this contribution guide, 100%, exactly the link that you said. And I believe if you like the way to get to it is under is it still under that project drop down at the top of the bar? Like if you just go to
Yeah,
fluxcd.io and you go to project,
exactly.
yeah, contributing and community. Those are the two that you really want to look at first. Um,
Love it.
yeah, the community page will tell you like all the information about when are the meetings, how do you, what are the Slack channels, how do you, etc. Right? Oh yeah, here we go. The bug scrub that gosh, does Kingdon still run that? I actually don't know if
Yeah.
Kingdon still run.
October
Okay,
14th, the next one's coming up next. Yeah. And you see here as well, like you said,
yeah,
like, all three of us are in different continents. So we're in different time zones. And so this is the nature of all open source projects, or at least the ones that I'm, most familiar with, is that you do have people in different places. So you have to be respecting that and keeping that in mind so that everyone can participate equally or doing things asynchronously. Here you can see where all the meetings are uploaded. And once again, folks, like, you don't have to know anything about anything to go to a meeting, and no one is going to expect you to be an expert on it just because you go. You can go there just to say, hi, I'm here to be informed. Whether it's for Flux or for any other open source project out there. Just don't want people to be afraid and feel like they don't have a place, because you are welcome and you can be there just to listen and check it out, and it's no big deal.
that's such a good point. And like the other thing is you might find yourself interested in one piece of Flux. Flux is a rather large project if you look at the arc, like, I think Bart mentioned, like, look at all these controllers, right? It's a project that's made up of distributed components. And so that could feel rather daunting to people. And it is a fairly sophisticated project, right? With very high standards. So it's like, oh gosh, am I even going to be able to contribute? Well, um, yeah, like take a look at the architecture, see what interests you. There might be, and the other thing I would do is like go through the tutorials and play with it. Actually just play with it. It's very easy to get started. Um, Click on one of the quick starts. I've got some old tutorials, but I'm sure there are better updated ones now. That control plane has got a bunch of folks over there, probably writing like probably more updated tutorials than the ones I have. You can also look at my old ones too if you want to, and I'm sure they still work generally. You can get up and running like in a few minutes and play with it, see what works for you and what you like, and you might find that there's a piece of it that interests you. You might even find in the documentation, hey, this would have been easier if it had this heading on it that said architecture, a section for architecture, or some other explanation. And you can actually contribute to the documentation, open a pull request for that. And the Flux maintainers are very, very like amenable to people making recommendations for things that might improve the language or the usability or clarify anything. And also really do appreciate people who are interested in contributing. That's what this project. I believe that's what this initiative is for. Bart, is that right?
It is.
Flux
It is very
Okay.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Why, everything that you
Cool.
mentioned, I think is very valuable, because also, like, for any open source project, yes, it's nice to check these things out, but like you said, like, check out the tutorials. And if the tutorials don't make sense, at least you've given it a shot. What we said time and time again here, and we need to turn it over to Ebenezer soon, but like what we've said time and time again here is that,
Yeah.
if you show people that you've done some work and that then you've encountered problems, the conversation's going to go, it's going to be much more productive than just guide me, teach me, whatever. If you say like, hey, I looked at this, I looked at that, I read this, I checked out these resources, but I'm still not understanding this and this, it shows that you've taken some time, that you've made an effort, and that says a lot about you, that you're willing to try things. And so just don't be afraid of that. I downloaded it and I still didn't really know where to begin. Is there a better tutorial I can check out, or maybe one that's more updated, whatever it happens to be?
100%. A good rule of thumb is
anything else, Scott, before we turn over to Ebenezer?
Oh, no. Just thanks for having me. Yeah, like really love the work that you do, Bar, and I'm excited about this program because I'm excited for more people to have ways into this project.
Absolutely.
And Ebenezer, I will definitely watch the recording. after this. I'm excited to hear from you too. So thanks,
Awesome, Scott.
thanks
Thank you
again.
so much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your
You
weekend.
too.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So yeah, Scott is one of those people that you just can't get enough of, and I've been lucky to know for a few years being in the cloud native ecosystem, and he's done tons of cool things in many different places. And as he mentioned, came into this ecosystem from a very non-technical background as myself. So just another reminder that don't worry about what you studied or what your current job is, or things like that. It does not mean that you can't have a very valuable experience in cloud native, and of course that you can contribute lots of great things. Now I would like to turn it over to our second guest, Ebenezer, who's been involved in the project for a few weeks now. Ebenezer, for people who don't know you, can you tell us about who you are, where you live, and what you do? Oh, sorry, and you're muted. That's my fault. There you go. You're good now. Cool.
Okay, so I trust you can hear me. My name is Ebenezer Honya. That might be hard for some people to say. I am a computer science student based here in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a Flux Explorer. This is actually my third week, and I love everything about cloud native, the community, the careers, and the tooling, and just basically anything around it. Outside of tech, I'm really interested in poetry and Marvel comics. Yeah. And just to mention, I'm actually here to talk about an internship that I have got coming up next week. I'll be joining a telecommunications company here in Kenya called Safaricom PLC on the DevOps engineering and SRE team.
Very good. Congratulations. That's very exciting news. So just tell us though about like your background. How did you get into this position in the first place? What were you doing in the past months and years?
Okay, so a little bit of context. Earlier this year, the CNCF partnered with Andela to provide training for early stage developers and people who are just starting out their careers in tech, mostly in Africa. I signed up and I was lucky enough to join the program. I did the program and then I took the KCNA certification. And I used to share my learnings publicly every day, or yeah, almost every day on LinkedIn. I'll write blog posts and then share links to these posts and the things that were sort of like difficult for me to understand, and people will comment, people will share, and one of my friends, he was an intern back then at Safaricom on the same team that I'll be joining. He came across the post and he told me, you know what, we are running a program, an internship program for people who are passionate about SRE, people who are passionate about DevOps, and if you like, you can apply here. I did the application and did the interview, and yeah, here we are today. But before that, I actually have some background in tech. After high school, I did a little bit of IT support, Active Directory management, Windows Server configuration, the usual. But what really helped me was sharing my knowledge publicly and sharing the things that I've learned publicly, the failures, the successes, and everything in between.
Excellent. And in that experience, sharing your knowledge in public, for some people, it's kind of scary at first, to be exposed. What was that process like for you? How did you get comfortable with the things that you were sharing? What were the things that you shared?
So there's not really like a perfect formula or a magic bullet that I'd say that do this and then it will be okay. But it's always intimidating at first. It's always scary at first. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The first time you'll make a post, you'll get maybe one or two impressions, but don't really care about the impressions or the amount of likes that you're going to get from this. What really matters is you show up consistently, and you do the best that you can to the best of your ability, and then the rest will just follow your way. So that is my formula.
Very good. And now with the KCNA exam, that you did, for people that aren't familiar with that, what are the kind of things that you learned about? How did you go about it? Did you read books? Did you watch tutorials? Did you do some kind of a course? What was your process towards to getting that certification?
Okay, so the KCNA is one of the associate level certifications that are offered by the CNCF. It covers concepts around basic Kubernetes concept, CNCF governance, cloud native, and observability, and a little bit of GitOps. So how I did this was through the official documentation. Sometimes Kubernetes is really difficult to understand, especially going through the official documentation, but I did make an effort to go through that. A lot of tutorials as well, YouTube videos, and following some really influential people on LinkedIn, people who talk about things that I'm interested in. An example is, I think, Daniele is an instructor at LearnCube. I post a lot of stuff around managing resources, limits, and requests in Kubernetes. And fun fact, that week that I was going to take the certification, I read something that he had posted on LinkedIn, and the very, very same thing actually came in the KCNA exam.
Very good. I can proudly say that one of the instructors at LearnCube, Daniele, is my colleague, my friend, and as much as he hates to admit it, he's actually my boss. But yeah, if you don't follow Daniele, he's very dedicated to helping people level up. Posts lots and lots of different things on LearnCube, which is the organization where I'm very proud to work at. So for folks that aren't familiar with LearnCube, you can definitely follow us on all social media platforms. There's lots and lots of content going out all the time about Kubernetes. One of the things that people like a lot are the diagrams, like the graphics where they explain things. Is that something that you found helpful?
Definitely.
Okay, good. I'm happy to hear that. He'll be very happy to hear that as well. And so for folks that are out there, I really like what you said too about, content creation. And that's why, we're doing this right now. I've also spoken to other folks who appear, who prefer not to appear on camera and just, maybe do something that's written or, in a different format. Like I said, you find the way that's going to work best for you. I really like what you mentioned too. Your first posts aren't necessarily going to get a lot of engagement, and that's okay. It's part of the process. It's why we're doing this program. So you can do it in a comfortable, relaxed environment where other people that are doing things for the first time also will be there to support you. But now, Ebenezer, I want to turn it over a little bit more to the Flux side. What's been your experience so far interacting with a project that maybe you didn't have previous knowledge or experience with? How has this been for you? What have you found challenging? What have you found enjoyable?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with Flux for the last maybe two weeks or so. When I joined the Flux Explorers program, I've been really loving it most. A lot of the concept. One thing I like about Flux is it has a really awesome documentation that is easy to follow, commands that you can actually copy paste and run them and see the same outputs that has been shown, and diagrams as well, the visual explanation that you just mentioned earlier, and also the community, the official CNCF Slack community. There is a channel for Flux, and people there are super friendly. You can chat with the maintainers, and they can reach out to you. You can reach out to them, and they can answer your questions, anything you have, any doubts you have about Flux, or if something's not clear in the documentation, they can explain to you in ways that you can understand.
That's great. And like you said, you take the time to look at something and then you have more direct questions. It always makes it easier, just like we were speaking about with Scott. So showing people that you've taken time to make the effort, and then it makes the conversations much easier. If you haven't checked out, the Slack channel already on the CNCF Slack for Flux, it might be worth it just to see the kind of things that people are posting in there. Generally, when they're having some kind of an issue or a bug fix or things like that, you'll see, or a pull request is going on. You'll see the different conversations that are going on there, just so you get a better idea of like, this is how a graduated open source project, as Scott mentioned, the maturity level, it's a graduated open source project in the CNCF. It's not a sandbox or incubated. Those are the first two stages, sandbox being the first, incubated being the second. It's a graduated project, so it's the highest level of maturity. So if you want to see, how that works kind of from the inside out, go check out a meeting. You can see all the meetings on the YouTube channel for Flux. Or you can also, like I said, go into the Slack to see the conversations that people are having. There will be a lot of terms that you're not familiar with. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Everyone that's in that channel has gone through that experience as well too. So if they can do it, you can as well. Don't be afraid of that. I just gotta take some time. It's like learning a language, picking up on the new vocabulary, the way things work. And so, like I said, I encourage you to check that out. You can use it as an opportunity to introduce yourself, saying that you're there just to learn. Say that you heard about it through the Flux Explorers program. You'll be welcomed by the maintainers there, and you can just use it as a way to like I said, just to get your sort of your first experience with that. Now, Ebenezer, as we wrap up, you're starting this new role. What are the things that you're excited to learn? What do you expect to do next in your open source, Kubernetes journey?
Really excited about doing things that I'll see. This company, I was actually using their products before I'm going to join it, and it will be really fun for me to contribute to something that I'll end up actually using myself and my family and other people that I know will be using the products that maybe I'm helping create, I'm helping build, and I'm looking forward to more opportunities. I'm looking forward to growing. I'm looking forward to meeting new people in the cloud native space, and I think that's pretty much it at this moment. Thank you. Back
That's
to you,
pretty
Matt.
good. That's a pretty good summary. I mean, of all the different things that you mentioned there, that being able to blend this passion for technology and learning and sharing with others in a professional context. These things take time. Your situation, it took time to get here. So for folks that are out there, remember this is not a sprint. These things take time. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the people that you get to meet along the way. It's amazing being able to connect with someone who's from Kenya. I told Ebenezer, but many years ago when Ebenezer was a very small child, I lived in Kenya in 2006. I lived in Nairobi for 3 months and had a wonderful experience. Meeting lots of people from there, so it always makes me really excited to connect with people in a place that I love very much and really need to get back to visit soon. So this is the beauty though of open source. Is like you have a network of people all over the world. You get to learn so much about other countries while sharing the same passion for technology and helping people grow. That being said, we're pretty much done for today. If you haven't followed Ebenezer already on LinkedIn, please do so. He's actively sharing content there. I'll share his, obviously I'm tagging him in all the posts, things like that. We'll send a summary of this too. You'll expect another summary from me on by email. Next step that you got to do if you haven't done the analysis and the stuff that you learned didn't understand for episode 2, that's what we need you to do. And then share your post about that. Make sure you put that in the tracker as well so we can see it, so we can like it, so we can ask questions, interact with you in the comments, get you as much visibility as possible. Next week, episode 3 drops on Monday, so you can check that out and do the same thing. Write down the things that you don't know and share your learnings about what you learned in episode 3 with the end users. We will do another live stream next week, same time, same place, inviting other people from the program. Next week, we're going to try to get my friend Nick Eberts, who works at Google and is also a big Flux user, Flux fan, super cool person who I'm very lucky to know, and he'll be hanging out with us next week. And then we'll also have someone else too from the Flux Explorers program, at least one person, maybe 2, to explain who they are, what they're doing, and the things that they've been learning as well. As usual, folks, if you have questions, if you need help with anything, do not suffer in silence. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. You have my email as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. If there are things that you would like to learn more about or things that could be more useful that we can add or incorporate as we continue on this learning journey together, also please let me know. And last but not least, have an amazing weekend. You're all incredible. Thank you for bringing so much energy to the chat. Sharing ideas, links, comments, concerns, all that kind of stuff is dearly appreciated. I wish you nothing but the best, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.